Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Soo, your East Oakland advocate for Zinni 62 Media Incorporated. Well, did you watch the Super Bowl yesterday? I did. Not so much the game, but uh, for the commercials and the halftime show. And a lot of folks, it's been a very controversial show because a lot of folks here, uh, even in Oakland, uh, saying, why was Bad Bunny uh, only speaking in Spanish, his singing in Spanish? Well, number one, the reason why he's speaking in Spanish is because that's his native tongue. He's Puerto Rican. He's from the islands, which is a U.S. territory, which makes Bad Bunny a U.S. citizen. And um, here in California and a lot of your Southwest was once upon a time, a lot of the language was Hispanic or Spanish, we'll say. And it's it was after the colonization, the colonizers of America that pushed for English only. And in fact, this sitting president was making a lot of changes. If you remember a year ago, he changed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which is wrong. And the Gulf of Mexico has been known as the Gulf of Mexico because that entire section of America, once upon a time, belonged to Mexico. And so, getting back to the Super Bowl halftime show. So Bad Bunny, he if you don't understand Spanish, Spanish, he was talking about life in Puerto Rico and how um, uh, the language uh, is about love. And he talks about that throughout his songs. But if you don't speak Spanish, then that would be very difficult. And I'm going to go back a little bit and I'm going to ruffle some feathers here, folks. I'm going to upset some people because you need to be told why and that you should be tolerant of other languages because here in America, we America and it was put in place by the colonizers. It's also supported by our current sitting president, Donald Trump, for English only, and that's that is about as racist as you could get. Um, if you go to other parts of the world, many countries, the population speaks more than just their basic language. Let's say you go to Croatia, they would only speak a certain type of Croatian dialect or Ukrainian dialect uh, or Russian dialect. And so these are things that connect people. And if you go back to when you were in school, do you remember when you were first told that you need to learn another language? Well, back then I was already bilingual, and here's another sad fact that you need to know. I base a lot of what happened, the bad mouthing of Bad Bunny, the bad mouthing of our Hispanic brothers and sisters, to racism, and having a superior thought process. So I say that because of experience with two of my ex-wives, and they neither one of them spoke an additional language. They did, and they also had friends which mostly didn't speak a second language either. So, and they were of like mindset, uh, and that everybody should be speaking English only. And that's wrong, because growing up, I was in a bilingual home. I originally learned to speak Cantonese uh, because my grandmother did not speak English. She only spoke Cantonese. She immigrated from China a long time ago. My grandfather, he did speak English and also Chinese. Both my parents also were bilingual. And then in junior high school, we were told that we need to learn an additional language. And for my junior high school, the choices were either French or Spanish. And so I took Spanish because we had a lot of Spanish speaking people in Oakland. And then also, what was interesting, the folks, our Hispanic brothers and sisters, they were also in the Spanish class, but not so much to learn how to speak it, but how to read and write. And so that was one of the differences. And for a lot of you who know me and who don't know me, I uh, I grew up English, Cantonese. I had some Japanese because I had Japanese relatives also, some that spoke broken English, also Vietnamese and German. And so these are the languages that I'm able to communicate with for a lot of different things. And one of the things that I wanted to say, Americans, you have a bad reputation when you travel overseas. My previous wife, she went to France, Paris, France, for 2 weeks with a friend. Fortunately, her friend knew how to speak French. Not the greatest, but at least she could speak, whereas my wife had no clue whatsoever other than a few Americanized words, and that was the best that she could do. But if she had to ask for directions or a bathroom or even feeding herself, she couldn't do it in Paris. She had to rely upon her friend to do a majority of the speaking and translating. And that brings up a thing that my ex-wife said when she got home. She said the French were really rude to me. They refused to speak English, uh, and um, but they could speak a lot of other languages. I said, yeah, probably Spanish is one of them. German is another one because they see a lot of these tourists from these countries, and so they have to be able to communicate with them also. It is only the arrogant and ignorant Americans who say that everybody should be speaking English or be able to speak English to them no matter where they go and whatever the circumstances are. So that's why I say Americans are spoiled, lazy, and ignorant, uh, and because the world tends to cater to a lot of folks. But as my uh, previous wife experienced in the real world, it can they can treat you pretty bad. And then not only is the customer service bad, but then they're talking about you behind your back or right to their face because they know that you can't understand what they're saying about you, and they could be really insulting in many cases. And I take this, I give you an example of what happened to me. And I'm Chinese. My first wife was Caucasian. She didn't speak any other language whatsoever. And her and I were walking in the Oakland Chinatown. And let me explain something about there's two different types of Chinese. There's what we call the ABCs, and that's American born Chinese. That's me. And then we have the FOBs, fresh off the boat. And so FOBs don't believe that most American born Chinese, the ABCs, can understand what they're saying, or they slightly change it to Toisan dialect, which is slightly different versus the Cantonese. Whereas when I grew up, I was able to speak both Toisan and Chinese, and I was overhearing this conversation behind me between two old ladies, which were following me and my wife in the Oakland Chinatown at the time. This was back in the 80s, and uh, they were really insulting. I mean, very, very insulting. What they were saying about my wife, they were complimenting me, saying what a good-looking Asian Chinese man. Why would he pick something like that, a white trash like that, to marry? And so I got a little insulted with that. I quickly turned around and told that the two old ladies, you know, to put a cork in it, that I understood what they said, and that they could get very hurt by uh, this person, that my wife at the time, they were just calling her an insulting name. And um, then all of a sudden my wife, she chimes in and says, what did they call me? What did they say? I said, I've got it handled. You don't need to know what they said, because I'm taking care of it. And I mean, and it is disturbing. Yeah, but that's how the world really works. And the importance of Bad Bunny singing in his native tongue, which is Spanish, is important, because, as they say, things get lost in translation. And so the song is not the same if it's translated to just English only, because there are things that don't translate well, or uh, doesn't translate the same uh, when we go from one language to another, uh, and that's the disturbing part. And those that refuse to learn a secondary language, it's your problem, because practically everything speaks at least two languages. Think about your dog or your cat. They speak two languages. One, their native language, and then two, the learned language, which is uh, whatever language you speak to your dog in, whether it's German, it's English, Spanish, or whatever. Because I hear folks, uh, um, depending on their household, and they speak whatever that is spoken in their household, and their dog has learned how to speak and understand a lot of those. So it's actually just as the world says, it's the lazy, ignorant Americans who refuse to get with the program and learn to be able to communicate with a lot of different people. I have uh, black friends who decades ago didn't speak Japanese, but because he was introduced to a friend of mine way back then, he married her. He married into a full Japanese family, and uh, my friend, he learned Japanese over the course of time, and so it was very beneficial for him, but also uh, for a lot of people, it's part of their work. In my work, I had to be able to speak many different languages. In fact, it was required to speak at least three different languages fluently. So when I was working for a Department of Defense, I actually had 5 languages. So those that uh, those operatives that did not have additional languages, they were burdened by having to carry around a translator person for them, or find a translator for that country that they're in, so that they can understand and then also communicate different things to the other party. So, like I said, it's just the lazy and ignorant Americans that refuse to learn additional languages. And Spanish is one of the oldest universal Romance languages out there. Um, it's spoken in a lot of countries, and there's countries that I've been to that I didn't think Spanish would be one of the dialects that was spoken, but Spanish is spoken in many different countries, even Arabic. In Arabic countries, Muslim countries, Spanish is spoken. And so um, before the this past weekend's halftime show, Bad Bunny said, "Hey, you got 4 months to learn some basic Spanish. Did you do it? No." But those that refused to, they attended the other concerts, by the other stars out there. I didn't watch any of that. I watched the main Bad Bunny show at halftime, and Lady Gaga was there. She was incredible. Uh, think about this. That was that was pretty brave for Lady Gaga to step up and uh, be part of the act also, along with Bad Bunny, who was singing only in Spanish, and then Lady Gaga, she chimes in and she's only English. So, uh, what are your thoughts about what happened on yesterday's half bowl or Super Bowl and halftime show? Commercials were pretty bland, and a lot of times I'm thinking, now what are they trying to sell? Because you really couldn't see what they were trying to sell until the very end. And think about yesterday's commercials would cost $8 million per 30-second slot. $8 million for a 30-second slot. And that does not include the cost of producing that commercial. So it was crazy. Like I said, yesterday was interesting. I didn't really care about the outcome, but the good thing is that um, I'm happy for Darnold, because he was a 49er backup for Brock Purdy just a couple of seasons ago, and things just didn't work out in San Francisco for him. But now that was real interesting that he's now the top quarterback in the NFL. Thanks for joining me today. Let me know what you think about yesterday's show. And if you haven't subscribed to Zenny 62 Media Incorporated yet, please do so.